Hello, welcome and thanks for joining. I'm Eve.
I'm Bryony.
I'm Ian.
And I'm Philip.
And today we're going to be talking about the brand new book, Brainy Glue, written by Ian and Philippe. The book is written using a fictional storyline and incorporates a fresh perspective on BA tools and techniques. So Ian and Philippe are going to share some details of the new book, but before we do, I'd like to share with our listeners about our book giveaway. We're offering an opportunity to win a copy of the new book. All you have to do is keep listening and tell us in the comments what you found most interesting from our discussion. So without further ado, let's go.
So to kick things off, it would be really great to hear, how did you come about writing this book?
Yes, I've always wanted to write a novel, and the advice I've been given about writing a novel is always write about what you know. So I didn't really want to do it on my own. It seemed like a mammoth task, and I thought it'd be great if I could have someone to write it with. Now, I'd met Philippe on the circuit at conferences, and we shared views which were very similar, and I liked what he had to say. So I give Philippe a call, and I said, would you like to write a book? And he said, yes, I'd love to, thank goodness. So we got together and produced the book.
Amazing. And for anyone listening who might have an idea to write a book themselves or may have been inspired by Brainy Glue, could you tell us a bit about the process? So how you went from the initial inception all the way through to the publishing stage?
Yeah, so at the start, we didn't really know what the book was going to be about, to be fair. We didn't have a clear vision, so we spent a week in an Airbnb in London, and we had a big, massive white wall, and on that wall we had loads of post-it notes, and we put lots of ideas and grouped them, and the book changed shape a lot during that week. But we came out of that week with a framework for the book. We decided that it would be a novel, and it would be a little bit different to the techniques books. There's a wealth of technique books out there, and we wanted something very different. So we had a novel, and so the rest is we took those parts, and I wrote a few chapters. Philippe wrote a few other chapters, and it all started coming together. But it's a rocky road, because sometimes everyone's busy. We have busy lives, and I know Philippe does a lot of talking. I do a lot of other things with the army, and sometimes you lose momentum. But we managed to keep it through. It took us 3 years of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of sacrifice. But we refined it and stayed with it. And in the end, we decided to self-publish, and we're now on Amazon, and we've got a website of our own. So it was late last year that we published, and it was quite an achievement, wasn't it, Philippe?
Yeah, it was. It's a bumpy but very interesting and fun road to travel through. Absolutely. Yeah.
Good stuff. So Ian, obviously without giving too much away, tell us about the story and a few of the main characters. Are they based on anyone in particular?
Yeah, I've been asked that question quite a lot. Are they based on anybody in particular? But let me start at the beginning. We've got our fictional character, a fictional business analyst called Abby Townsend, and she works for Starbright Consultancy. Now, they have a client called Infinity Supermarkets, and their brand is all based around them not running out of any fresh fruit and vegetables and any stock, really. And social media got hold of the fact that they were throwing out a lot of waste. So it's a very topical subject, and she was brought in to try and stem that and put process in place and put more ideas and to find a solution on how to reduce that waste and then change public perception for Infinity Supermarkets. So she meets a lot of different characters on the way. Her boss, his name is David. He's a bit more staid in his ways. There's a lot of me and David, not that I am staid in my ways, but there's a lot of, Philippe and I have brought in a lot of our own experiences as business analysts and business architects into these characters. And David has quite a bit of, he worked with prisoner escort, same as I worked in prisoner escort and spent days, if not weeks, in the dungeons part of the Old Bailey with the Ministry of Justice. And working, making prisoners go up to the dock and then putting them in cells and taking them back to prisons, such as Wormwood Scrubs. And that's in the story, and then a few lessons from there. There's also Jack, who is the head of the supermarket. He's the golden boy. He's the all-American kind of character. And I think it's fair to say that Abby likes working with him. So there's Chandra, who's quite an old-fashioned sponsor. And there are a few people who help her along the way, including Jane, who's a budding business analyst. So yeah, a lot of both of us in these characters that we build. I don't think we are any of the characters, and I don't think there are anybody in particular we've based the character on. But yeah, lots of different things.
Fantastic. It's really different actually to see a book with business analysis and change techniques written in this storytelling format, and that's something that I think, from having read it, that Brainy Glue does so well. What was it that inspired you to incorporate those change techniques and the business analysis techniques into the storytelling format?
Yeah, so I guess maybe about 5 years ago, maybe even more, storytelling came into business analysis as a way of eliciting requirements. And we thought, yeah, why not? Why not explore that a little bit more? There are books out there like Who Stole My Cheese? There are a few more. There's The Goal. And we thought, well, why not write a book that's different? As I said before, there's a lot of great reference books out there, but people will pick those reference books up and read a chapter and put it back down. We wanted to create a book that you would read from cover to cover, and then that way you'd learn. We think that you'd learn more because you go through you go through each technique and it's applied to the story. And there's not only techniques in there, there's situations such as work-life balance and topics that we address in that book that you can't really address in any other book, I suppose. And again, I've always wanted to write a novel, and Philippe was interested in that shape of book, so amazing. He brought his wealth of techniques and fresh views to the book, so it was a good blend.
Yeah, absolutely. I may add that having the story also works well because it engages people end to end more than textbooks. And we also have all experienced the question, what do you do for a living? What is a business analyst? And it's a question that we all seem to struggle with answering. And I think the book helps us answer that question. So if someone asks you, what do you do for a living? Just give that person the book and they will understand.
Yeah, definitely agree. And Philippe, the book has a fresh perspective on business analysis techniques. Are there any techniques in particular that you'd like to share?
Well, ultimately, business analysis is about change, about enabling change in organizations. That's why we are analyzing current systems, current processes. That's why we are designing new systems and new processes. And so the idea to have a different perspective on techniques was to highlight the fact that whenever we apply a technique, whenever we perform our analysis work, we are actually helping or hindering the change that we are going to bring about. So we came to the question, how can we make sure that people look at their technique, whatever it is, through a change lens, to a change perspective? And for example, the power interest grid is an often used technique to highlight what stakeholders we should be in contact with throughout the project. But obviously, when you say to certain stakeholders, you don't have a lot of power, so we're only going to communicate with you in a very limited way, that's kind of weird. Especially when some of these stakeholders, for example, operational staff or customers, while they don't have a lot of influence on the creation of the solution, they have a lot of influence in actually running the solution, buying or using the solution. So they should be involved in the change process from the very beginning. And so that's kind of the different perspective we offer. Maybe from a project perspective, an operational staff member is not that important or that powerful, but from a change perspective, he or she might be very important or very powerful, especially as a group. And so that's the perspective we are trying to offer with the book. On different techniques.
Amazing. There are a lot of different fresh perspectives that are offered up by Brainy Glue, and particularly as someone so early in my BA career, I found it really interesting to have the opportunity to read those from the off. And what would you say is some of the key messaging that you'd hope that readers would take away? And it'd be nice to hear and see if I've picked up on any of those.
It'd also be nice to see if you picked up on some others. For us, I think change and innovation are a key part of business analysis. And the key thing about the book is really making change happen in small steps. Because it helps you to learn what works and what doesn't work, and it allows you to make course corrections along the way. And it also makes it easier for people. It's much easier to go through a small change than through a big change. You should still have the ambitious end goal in sight, but going through small changes, one step at a time, is much more manageable for a lot of people. On top of that, because people are involved in these small changes and they will give you feedback on what works and what doesn't work, it makes them much more engaged in the entire change process. So it will probably lead to a more feasible journey for achieving a bigger change in the end. And so I think really the key message of the book, if I would have to highlight one, is that having these changes and innovations in small steps, one small step at a time, is really the number one message.
I think we spent most of the time on business case, didn't we? Disproportionate amount of time on business case, because there were areas which we agreed wholeheartedly, and there were other areas we just had to talk it through a little bit. And that small change, we were fed up of seeing big organisations put big business cases together, a lot of guesswork, and what we said was, look, let's change the approach and let's make it step by step so that we learn along the way and we're not making such wild guesses. So that's a part which we took a lot of time just to get for ourselves, so we're both satisfied with the approach.
Yes, and that's maybe also an interesting part of our journey in writing the book. Whenever we had discussions about a certain topic or technique, should we go for a big business case or a small business case, for example, those are the discussions, those are the conversations that business analysts have in the office each day. So we've turned these discussions actually into storylines in the book to showcase challenges that we come across and how you can solve them. What kind of conversation do you need to have to get to a shared perspective on these things?
Yeah, definitely. It's very realistic. Ian, a lot of our listeners will draw most parallels to the character Abby, who is a young business analyst early in her career. So what advice would you give to someone like Abby to help them in their early stages of their career?
Yeah, okay, good question. I do a lot of work with graduates, and I coach a lot of graduates, and I always say, learn your craft, accelerate your learning. Now you'll find that Abby, she's not perfect, and she's not built as a perfect business analyst. She makes mistakes now and again. But she has a memory bank of techniques that she can use with whatever situation. So as business analysts, we've got, I think a new book came out, didn't it, late last year, 123 business analysis techniques. There are more, but 123 is a great number, isn't it, to have in a book. But she has that memory recall. She doesn't have to go and look at it. So the more you can understand the techniques that you need to throw at a situation and how to use them, then that makes you a richer BA. So I would say learn your craft, because there's nothing like walking into a business situation confident that you know your stuff. Yeah, and that's because you put the sacrifice in and you've accelerated your learning by reading the reference books and Brainy Glue and knowing how to apply the techniques to the business situation.
Cool. So as it is at the moment, we're just kicking off January 2022, and lots of people will be setting their new goals and looking for new inspiration over the coming year. So for those people and those listening now who might be interested in buying themselves a copy of Brainy Glue, whereabouts can they go to do that?
So all the information is on our website, which is brainyglue.com. You find there links to purchase the book directly or go to Amazon to purchase a paperback or Kindle copy. And if you want to check it out first, you can also download a large sample of the first 16 chapters of the book, which gives you an idea of how the story goes and what kind of techniques you will come across in our book. So brainyglue.com is the place to be.
It's also on Amazon as well. If you want to type in Amazon, go to Amazon and type in Brainy Glue. I think it's accessible in the UK and US and somewhere else, isn't it?
Several other countries, yeah.
Several countries.
Perfect, and so well plugged by your background there, Philip, as well, with the website on there. So don't forget as well that the option or the opportunity for one person to win a copy of Brainy Glue is available. So if you are interested in entering, just leave a comment and let us know what you found most interesting about our discussion today, and one person will get the opportunity to win a copy of the book. I will make sure that details of the competition and also links to purchase the book are included as part of the post. So I'll now hand you over to Eve for some final comments.
Thank you to our listeners for tuning in, and also thank you to Philippe and Ian for sharing the details of the book. It's a really good read. I definitely recommend buying a copy. So yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks very much for having us.